How did a single decade forge the modern world and nearly shatter it? This is the roaring, soaring, and heartbreaking story of America from 1921 to 1930. In 1921, screen legend was cemented when Charlie Chaplin released The Kid, blending comedy and drama to pioneer cinematic storytelling. That same March, Warren G. Harding promised a return to normalcy as president, a pledge that resonated deeply in a nation where women had just won the vote. Then in April, a scientific revolution landed in New York as Albert Einstein explained his theory of relativity, bringing complex physics into the public eye for the first time. May brought a scent that would define luxuriation, no, five and an American tragedy that would scar the nation. The Tulsa Race Massacre saw a thriving black neighborhood in Greenwood, Oklahoma, attacked and destroyed. The official death toll was shamefully undercounted, with true estimates reaching into the hundreds. History was made that summer when former President William Howard Taft became Chief Justice, the only person to hold both offices. In an era of extremes, one man bridged two branches of power. Meanwhile, the controversial trial of anarchists Sacco and Vanzetti ignited debates over justice and prejudice. The year wasn't done with shocks. Baseball was rocked by the Black Sox scandal acquittal, and a young Franklin D. Roosevelt was struck by a paralyzing illness. Few could have imagined that this man, confined to a wheelchair, would soon steer the nation through its greatest crisis. The first Miss America was crowned, and the very first White Castle opened its doors, inventing fast food as we know it. The decade had begun. By 1922, America was stepping into modernity. A medical miracle arrived in January when insulin saved a young diabetic boy, transforming a death sentence into a manageable condition. Yet fears also emerged, with a dire and incorrect prediction that U.S. oil would run dry in 20 years. Sweet innovation came with the Eskimo pie, and corporate ambitions saw Henry Ford acquire Lincoln. Reader's Digest published its first issue, and a scandal began to bubble with the Teapot Dome oil leases. Walt Disney incorporated his first ill-fated studio while across the country. The Lincoln Memorial was dedicated, and President Harding's voice crackled over the radio for the first presidential broadcast. The NFL got its name. Water skiing was invented on a lake in Minnesota, and the tomb of King Tut was discovered, sparking a global Egyptomania. The year closed with the formation of a new superpower, the Soviet Union. 1923 roared in with the horror of the Rosewood Massacre. President Harding brought troops home from Germany, and a new media titan, Time magazine, published its first issue. States enacted early pension laws, and Harding himself became the first president to file an income tax return. Warner Brothers was founded, inflatable tires hit the market, and Yankee Stadium opened its gates. In a small but symbolic victory, the U.S. Attorney General declared it legal for women to wear trousers. Aviation pioneers achieved the first mid-air refueling, and a simple real estate sign in Los Angeles would become the iconic Hollywood landmark. Then, in August, President Harding died suddenly. Vice President Calvin Coolidge was sworn in by lamplight, inheriting a nation on the brink of profound change. Tragedy struck the Navy at Honda Point, and two brothers named Disney founded a cartoon studio in California. As the year ended, Garrett Morgan patented the three-color traffic light, and President Coolidge lit the first national Christmas tree. 1924 was a year of empires fading and new ones rising. Columbia Pictures was born, and Vladimir Lenin died, shifting global politics. The first Winter Olympics captivated the world, and former President Woodrow Wilson passed away. IBM was founded, and the most sung song in history, Happy Birthday to You, was published. Tragedy struck a Utah coal mine, and MGM was formed, its lion's roar soon to become iconic. J. Edgar Hoover took the helm of the Bureau of Investigation. And the brutal intellectual murder of Bobby Franks by Leopold and Loeb horrified Chicago. Congress passed the harsh Asian Exclusion Act. After the longest convention in history, Democrats finally nominated a presidential candidate. A little red-haired orphan named Annie debuted in the comics, and Soldier Field opened in Chicago. Calvin Coolidge won the presidential election in a landslide. And a nation still unaware of the coming storm watched the first Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. A toddler named Frances Gum, the future Judy Garland, took her first bow. The full swing of the Roaring Twenties defined 1925, the bobbed hair bandit terrorized Brooklyn, and the New Yorker published its witty first issue. President Coolidge's inauguration was broadcast live on radio, but nature delivered a devastating blow with the deadliest tornado in U.S. history. Babe Ruth collapsed from an ulcer, and F. Scott Fitzgerald released a novel that would later define the era, The Great Gatsby. The Chrysler Corporation was founded, and early experiments with television began. A tragic dance floor collapse in Boston killed dozens. In Germany, Hitler published Mein Kampf, and in Tennessee, the Scopes monkey trial put evolution on trial. In one courtroom, the past and future of America clashed. The Klan marched on Washington, the Phantom of the Opera premiered, and Mount Rushmore was dedicated. The Grand Ole Opry aired its first broadcast, the world's first motel opened, and Madison Square Garden welcomed its first fans. In 1926, Walt Disney officially put his name on a studio. In a snowy Massachusetts field, Robert Goddard launched the first liquid-fueled rocket, barely clearing the trees but pointing humanity toward the stars. Ford instituted the 5-day work week, creating the modern weekend. Evangelist Amy Semple McPherson vanished, sparking a national manhunt, only to reappear with a wild story. NBC was founded, a baby named Norma Jean was born, and the first SAT exam was administered. Harry Houdini performed his underwater coffin escape, and the nation mourned the death of film idol Rudolph Valentino. A catastrophic hurricane slammed into Miami. A bear named Winnie Dappoo appeared in print, and the legendary Route 66 was born. The year ended with a mystery fit for fiction, the sudden disappearance of novelist Agatha Christie. 1927 was the year of the daring solo. The Harlem Globetrotters played their first game, and the Federal Radio Commission was formed to manage the airwaves. Babe Ruth signed a record contract, and Pan American Airwaves was incorporated. Mae West was jailed for obscenity, emerging more famous than ever. Then, the Great Mississippi Floods submerged the South, the worst natural disaster the nation had yet seen. In its aftermath, a young pilot named Charles Lindbergh took off from New York, alone in a single-engine plane. 33 hours later, he landed in Paris, an instant global hero. Henry Ford ended the Model T era, and the first iron lung offered hope to polio patients. President Coolidge stunned the country by refusing to run again. Phil Farnsworth demonstrated the first electronic television, and the CBS network was born. Babe Ruth smashed his 60th home run. Then, on October 6th, everything changed. The Jazz Singer premiered, and the movies began to talk. Before the year was out, the Ford Model A debuted, and a heartbreaking child kidnapping in Los Angeles led to a coast-to-coast manhunt. By 1928, jazz was in the air, and optimism was high. The public was horrified by a smuggled photo of an execution at Sing Sing. President Coolidge visited Cuba, and a woman claiming to be the lost Romanov Princess Anastasia arrived in New York. A dam collapse in California killed hundreds, and General Electric began experimental TV broadcasts. Kraft introduced Velveeta, and Herbert Hoover won the Republican nomination for president. Amelia Earhart flew across the Atlantic as a passenger, and the Democratic Party nominated its first Catholic presidential candidate. A bakery in Missouri sold the first machine-sliced bread. A hurricane killed thousands in Florida, and a small company called Galvin Manufacturing, later Motorola, was founded. Lax opened, gangster Arnold Rothstein was gunned down, and Herbert Hoover won the presidency in a landslide. As the year closed, Mickey Mouse steered his boat into history in Steamboat Willie, and Congress approved a massive Boulder Dam project. Then came 1929. The year began with new heroes. Buck Rogers, Tarzan, and Popeye all debuted in the comics. The Old West faded with the death of Wyatt Earp. Chicago's gang war reached its bloody peak in the St. Valentine's Day massacre, and a mysterious double murder rocked a Beverly Hills mansion. Grand Teton National Park was created amid controversy, and Herbert Hoover took office, promising continued prosperity. Technology reached the Oval Office with the first desk phone, and a foreign plane accidentally bombed Arizona. A hospital fire in Cleveland led to safer chemicals, and Hollywood gave out its first Academy Awards. Al Capone was arrested on a weapons charge, an eccentric man finished a cross-country walk, and an international plan tried to settle Germany's war debts. Penny chain reached every state. Then, on October 24th, Black Thursday, the stock market began to crumble. The former Interior Secretary went to jail for Teapot Dome, and 5 days later, Black Tuesday hit. The market collapsed entirely. Fortunes vanished overnight. The Museum of Modern Art opened in New York, a beacon of culture in the sudden gloom. President Hoover assured the nation the crisis was passing, but the Great Depression had just begun. In 1930, with 123 million Americans now facing uncertainty, innovation persisted. Winnie the Pooh was licensed for toys, and the Lone Ranger first galloped onto the radio. A cow was milked on an airplane, and the planet Pluto was discovered. Frozen food hit grocery shelves. Construction started on the skyscraper that would defy the gloom, the Empire State Building. In Kentucky, Harlan Sanders opened a cafe. Warner Brothers released Looney Tunes. A deadly prison fire shocked Ohio, and Ellen Church became the world's first flight attendant. The Chrysler Building pierced the sky, the Shedd Aquarium opened, and Betty Boop made her debut. Scotch tape was invented. The Bank of America got its name, and the Nation of Islam was founded in Detroit. As the year and the decade closed, President Hoover requested a major public works program to fight the economic collapse. And in an astonishing feat of endurance, a man finished swimming the entire length of the Mississippi River. It was a testament to human spirit at the end of a decade that had seen the very heights of human achievement and the depths of despair. From the Charleston to the crash, from Lindbergh to the breadline, this was the decade that invented our world. If you want to help preserve stories like this for the future, smash the like button right now. It truly helps the channel. For Winds of Thought, I'm the narrator. Let us know in the comments. Which event from this volatile decade do you think most shaped the century to come?